Today we're going to talk about people who appeared in multiple sitcoms. I might have to do a part two of this because there's so many people. I just did the ones that popped in my head and, the ones that had like bigger roles, but there's some that had small roles that were still like super iconic. So the first we're going to do Uncle Jr. So Jamie Foxx show Uncle Jr. He was Jamie Foxx's uncle. And I always think about that because Aunt Helen was his aunt because his mother, and we're going to get into that too, was his blood because that was his mother's sister. But his last name was King. It's like, I don't know if people even think about that detail. Yes, it could be. You could just meet somebody, y'all both have the same last name. But if you're not thinking about that, it's like Aunt Helen, that's his biological aunt. She married Uncle Junior, took his last name, which was King. But how would Janie have the last name King? And then his mother had King because they're all kings. Like I said, if you think about it further, that means they both had to have the same last name. Her last name had to be King when she met him. And that means she didn't have to change her name. That's the only way that can make sense. But when I think about that, I'm like, did y'all miss that detail? Or would y'all just like, thought like me, like both of y'all could have had the same last name? Anywho, but Uncle Junior was also staying in Martin. He had a role up until he left, like, maybe the third season. I'm not good with the seasons, but let's just say that was the third season. Maybe that he just left. And, he came back eventually when he sold Martin restaurant. It was like a surprise. So he was on for quite a while. But, as soon as Martin left the radio show, it was like, what role would he really play in it? So he was like cricket, pretty much cricket. He done stole money from Martin Wiley and everything. He was real cheap. He was real cheap. So him being a scammer, restaurant, now he in the restaurant business. And then when he made the tape for Martin saying he had to get out of town because he owed taxes and all that stuff. So he was just so crooked, child. He had all the schemes. And Uncle Junior was Uncle Junior was in that. He was cheap too. Like he was always trying to overcharge for stuff and not give people money. And he always trying to pay the lottery to get some money. And like I said, he always didn't want to pay what he was supposed to pay. So the fact that they are similar characters, I just thought about that as I'm talking. Since we talking about Jamie Foxx, so Jamie Foxx's mom, Janice King, first she was played by Gladys Knight, and then they switched her over to being played by Harriet. Or was it? Is that the opposite? It might be the opposite. Remember, we first got introduced to Gerald Levert with Harriet because she was dating a younger man and Jamie wasn't having it at first. And then he kept trying to introduce himself to everybody, all the people in the band that was older men. And then it got to him and he was like, okay, it ain't you. But I feel like Harriet was first though. And then Gladys came after that because Gladys was with Gerald Levert character, but in order for her to be with Gerald Levert character, it would have had to be after. Because we first got introduced to him through Harry. So I think first it was Harry and then they switched it to being Gladys. People don't even think about it. They just be like, when people be thinking about characters that switched, they don't even get brought up, but maybe because they wasn't like the main characters. But yeah, they switched her. And obviously, I'm even calling her Harriet. What is Janice? Harriet was on Family Matters. She was a mother on Family Matters. And then obviously, they switched. She got and was involved with a switch twice because they switched her character in Family Matters. I don't know what that was. I don't know if she wasn't getting along with Urkel or what. I don't really know what happened why she ended up leaving. Like both of them, like even on Dib, she wasn't getting along with Will, and that's what happened. And then I know something came out was that Harry wouldn't get along with Urkel. So it's just like interesting that those are both the cases. The lead is not getting along with the person that's like playing the mother figure, which is interesting. And Family Matters was a spinoff from some show. I don't know. I didn't watch it. You don't really read like a spinoff, but the fact that it was a spinoff and then it became about Urkel, it's supposed to be a family show. It's in around Urkel is just mind blowing to me. Like you wonder what the show would have been if it wasn't for Urkel. Like would it last? Like what would it evolve to? Would Judy still be there? Like the fact that this is the only show people talk about switching, but Judy was the wildest thing to happen in the sitcom as far as a character. Like just erase her from history and that was their child is crazy. The fact that they did that is crazy to me. Like, yeah, switching somebody is one thing, but like erasing a child like they never existed is crazy to me. Like, I wonder why they did that. Like, I wonder what that would have grew to. Like, she didn't have to have the biggest role, but I wonder what that would happen. Like I said, they just never mentioned her again, which is actually quite crazy. Annette was Lynn's stepmother, technically, because she found her real biological dad, and that was his wife, and she didn't like him. Blaming Lynn for what decision he made. So that was Harriet from Girlfriends. Aunt Helen, also from the Jane 5 show. Aunt Helen, she played in Martin. She didn't have a big role. Like, she appeared in a few episodes on Martin. She was Martin's upstairs neighbor, Miss Booker. You know, she was like over the top. She was kind of over the top sometimes in Jamie Foxx show too, but this thing is drew from a lot of Jamie, but it was just like everybody moved around. So yeah, like, her role wasn't super big, but she still was a part of some of the biggest episodes, you know. Like, I feel like maybe they wanted their character, like, even like Angry Man, he was in little roles. Like, you know about Angry Man, but it wasn't like huge roles. Like I'm saying, like, you know, it was here and there from certain episodes. He would appear for like a couple seconds, a few seconds. So that's that on that. But then Pops and Wayans, obviously, when you think of Pops, you think of obviously Friday. Wayans, you think about him being the father figure. Like, you think about a father figure and anything, you think about him. A lot of people think about Uncle Phil too, but I feel like Pops is number one to me when you think about it. And then he was also episodes of Martin as Uncle Otis. His role wasn't big too. He was his Uncle Otis, which is the fact that I think sometimes he said Uncle Junior too. I think it's supposed to be Uncle Otis, but I think he said Uncle Junior, which is weird too, because no Jamie Foxx show, but everybody got an Uncle Junior chat pretty much. So it's like, and he was trying to compete with Gina dad for Gina's mom. It was just a mess. It was just, his side of the family was a mess. It was a mess. And the other dude thought he was Eddie Murphy. You not Eddie Murphy. When Gina had to get them together because they was acting on a dang on fool. And then Pops and Wayans Brothers too, he had so many like iconic moments. Like, his character was so like fully realized to me. Pops was also played Lisa Daddy. No, not Lisa Daddy. It was actually Freddie from Different World. He played her daddy, and he didn't like Will. He pretty much trying to allow Will and jump out the plane and leave Will. Then they both end up being in trouble and having to jump out. It was a mess. And then I felt like they ended up liking each other. That's what happened with Lisa Daddy. I don't think liked him at first. He was also Tommy dad on Martin. They didn't get along first, and then he loved Will so much, and he didn't want to leave. And then remember, he ended up falling in love with Will's mother. Lisa boyfriend and sister. So the mom boyfriend and sister, Terrence, he was Professor Olympic. So we, tied in together. But he was in it for a while. He was like the manager of, I don't think he owned the grocery store. I think he was just a manager of the grocery store. But yeah, that was her boyfriend for a while. They had got engaged. And then, eventually it didn't work out. Professor Ogilvy, Nikki was in love with him. We all know that. He was a professor making $52,000 a year. I was seeing the episode of, I just saw it the other day about, this is one of my favorite episodes. One of my favorite scenes, not favorite episodes, favorite scenes with Steve Harvey was on the Parkers, and he was interviewing Nikki. He worked at the bank, and she was acting like Professor Obi was her husband. And he's like, "Do you even know him?" And then she was saying 6'2", but she was his neighbor. All this stuff about him, telling me he made $52,000 a year and all this other stuff. It was just hilarious to me. I don't think people really, because since it was like early on in the seasons, like I don't think people really think about him in Sister Sister, but he was in Sister Sister, so that's two like iconic sitcoms you're in. And then JT for the Eve, which is obviously was Eve's boyfriend. Hey, it had an up and down relationship. He was Melicia's teacher, Channing, that she liked, but obviously that was her teacher. He wasn't supposed to be dating. That was just like a weird dynamic. I don't know. Then eventually, when she went to guy 18, he took her on a date, and then he was like, "This ain't gonna work." It was just very weird, but he was like the fine teacher, the sexless teacher, the teacher everybody wanted. I think he was like a photography teacher or something. But his face card, I always had the face card though. But then Levita, I talked about this briefly in the other episode. I was talking about friends, but or couples, or both. Levita from She Always Show, she was in all of us, Janelle, as Tia friend. Her character's pretty similar too. Slightly similar too. Like I feel like they be wanting to cast somebody and they probably be looking at, okay, who did they play a bit like before? Like even like I said on Junior Stand, their characters are pretty similar. And then when you think about Levita and Janelle character, they're pretty similar. Not like 100%, but they had similarities for sure. And even Emo's teacher Channing and him being JC, like the pretty boy type, like, well, he is pretty, so I get why they cast him in that, but it's like him being that type. Like it was like so many like similarities. And Pops, he always over the top, Jay. He gonna do it up. And Levita was also on Meet the Brown. She was Renee. She was a funny character. She was pretty much the same character on there too. She was a funny character on there. Ivan from Living Single, he was obviously obsessed with Queen Latifah character. Like he was like in love with her, which is so hilarious. He was also in an episode of Parkers too. He was Kim roommate, but he was gay and he was pretending to be like her, so she didn't want him to be a roommate. Like she was doing everything for him, but then she ended up finding out he was gay when he threw like a little party and everybody they thought it was a woman, but it was a man, and then that's when she found out he's gay and then she kicked him out or whatever. Ivan from him saying like his character was so funny because he was when Grant he liked Khadijah and he came to the office and then they both left in the elevator and I was like, I sure wish I was a little bit taller. Ivan was actually funny. He was like obsessed with Khadijah. It was actually hilarious. He was just so funny. Jeremy when they was like Khadijah needed help with the finances of it all, so she brought in another like person to help it, and he was just wanting all the accolades, but he didn't want to do the hard work and he didn't want to take accountability for stuff when it was going wrong. But anywho, he's Dory on Different World. Obviously him and Jada Pinkett character Lena, they were dating. Well, yeah, he was younger, but he was at 5. He was younger than her girl, but all the girls was on him. Obviously she was on him, and then that time Tupac punched him in the face. That's just so he tried to be tough, put Tupac punched him in the face, but that was her friend from back home, but they liked each other, or he liked her at least. That was a whole thing, but it's just so funny. But he was like the good like boy, like he was a virgin, like he was waiting, and she the one didn't want to wait. It was good. That was good. That was the whole thing. I don't know. I know we're gonna see her in the new reboot, but I want is like they don't mention him. We're gonna see him, but they together. We're gonna get that story and see what's going on. This wasn't on the list, but since I was talking about the Parkers, and I was talking about Dorian playing the gay dude on the Parkers, it made me think about Kale playing the gay. It was so fabulous. Playing Freddie on the Parkers. It was so funny. Obviously, he's from Keaton and Kale. Who loves on so the Kale love on so and all that. But I don't know if you would consider. Do we consider Keaton and Kale a sitcom? I guess so, right? Yeah, you wouldn't think so because it was like for kids, so you don't really group that. Like even when you think about like the Disney shows like Lizzie McGuire, That's So Raven, when you think about sitcoms, people aren't putting that in, but because like I said, it was a kid show, so I don't know, is it still called sitcoms or what you would call that? But I should do a show on it because like about all the shows back on the day, like I said, That's So Raven, Lizzie McGuire. I see those. I don't watch current day, so we were a lot off memory. All these other shows, like the 90s shows, early 2000, I watch now. All them shows I just named by Lizzie McGuire. I'm not watching Lizzie McGuire. That's right now, but I did back then. But Freddie was so funny. See, like that's how you play like a gay character. Like he really did that up. It was just so funny. It wasn't like over the top. Like to really like, oh, people. I don't even think people think about it. Like it was just so good. Even like Maya cousin on Girlfriend is her gay cousin. He was been in stuff too, but I could have related to something, I just can't remember. But even like, Ben, I'm thinking about all the characters on Family Matters. Fado played one of the stylists, and he also eventually went on to be Joan's assistant in Girlfriends. He was Eddie's friend. He was like the cold of Family Matters, pretty much. Eddie's friend, but he was slow. And he was like I said, Joan's assistant, and he also worked in the salon with Maya cousin, and he was funny too. He used to tell Joan business. The fact that, like I said, they did the gay characters really well. Like I said, it wasn't like overly done. It wasn't like, oh, I can't, like, I don't think people even realize it. Like, when people think about them, you don't even realize because they played it so well. Like I said, wasn't nobody type. It was just so good. Like, that's how you do it up. They did it up there. Trip from living single, he pretty much a fill-in for Cal. He was barely in it, but he came back, you know, for the last season. And he was also Johnny and Parker. It's like the man Nikki was gonna marry. He was a Andale boyfriend friend, and they both was like in love with other people. Then they met, and she was about to marry him. And then here come Professor Ogilvy ruining it. Obviously Gina from Martin and Jay from My Wife and Kids. She was Robert's sister on All of Us. She was hilarious. Their dynamic was hilarious. The fact that they were husband and wife, but she was playing sister, that was just so funny. And she and Mike, Lisa Ray character, was just really funny. Eddie Winslow, he was Anton on Girlfriends. He was the second Anton. The first Anton was somebody else, so they switched him too. And he was like in love with Maya. He didn't want to leave, but it really had something to do with his career and being a doctor. And he felt like a failure. So that's when Tony, husband, had stepped in and, like, you know, tried to got him at the bathroom because he had locked himself in the bathroom. Maya was always, I don't know who, after Darnell, people was Looney Tunes. And Laura, this ain't nothing, but she was in the episode of The Parker. She was playing, like, she was one of Professor Ogilvy's students, and she was, like, cheating. Miss Parker set up to cheat. Nikki set her up to cheat, knowing she would cheat. So she left the paper with her to show her who the girl was, because she was pretty much hitting on Professor Ogilvy to pass the class. And she also was Cicely on Girlfriends, who Darnell was with. And then Peaches and then was like, oh yeah, we saw him feeding her cherries, grapes, or something, strawberries. I don't remember what it was. And they had a whole field day.